Hey, Peter.
Hey.
Have you ever heard of the acronym KISS?
Yes. KISS.
Yeah, what does it stand for?
Keep It Simple Solos.
Kind of. I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Jazz Explained.
Explained every day, brought to you by Open Studio every day. Peter, we're here. We're back.
We're in the Open Studio.
Oh my gosh, it looks so great in here, by the way. Shout out to all of our Open Studio members who are here. Shout out to all of our You'll Hear It listeners. Shout out to Caleb for making the old, well, not old, but the pod front.
Yes.
Look amazing.
And we're on YouTube. Yeah. We're all up in your ears on the podcast. Big shout out to Tim Apple for making that possible.
Tim Apple. Interesting. Okay.
But we're also on the YouTubes right over here. Big shout out to our new YouTube channel.
It'd be great if it was like Tim Apple and Mike Google and Jeff Amazon.
Yeah, well, there's a whole backstory behind it. Google it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll talk about that. That's for another episode.
Apple it, maybe? No? Okay.
Apple it. But yeah, we're here. So if you're listening on the podcast, please keep listening, but feel free to join us if you'd like to see the beauty behind the brains that you've been listening, behind the voices. You know?
So pretty.
You can come on YouTube to the You'll Hear It channel.
We have a brand new channel, You'll Hear It. Go check it out. Subscribe today. Super fun and some bonus content. Mostly us messing up in the beginning.
Exactly. And at the end, we always have a little stuff at the end, so stick around for that. And wait, there's one more thing.
Okay. I thought I was getting excited.
I was trying to get you excited about it, but yeah.
So what are we talking about today? We're talking about the simplest way to build a solo.
Yes.
I love this subject. We've covered similar subjects. I mean, let's be honest, Peter, this is podcast like 960 something.
Yeah.
We've covered everything.
There's going to be some repetition, but we like to think of it as evolution as well. Yeah. Because we're still learning ABS.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's get back to hashtag ABS. ABL.
ABL.
Always be learning.
Always be
ABS, anti-brake system.
Always be singing.
Always be soloing.
Always be soloing simply. Always be simply so ABSS. Always be simply soloing.
Right. Always be simply. But yeah, and full disclosure, right before we started, we had a little bit of a tete-a-tete, as we would say, a little back and forth as to whether or not to do this episode, not only because we've covered similar things, but we had a little bit of trouble coming up with the simplest way to build solos. So we thought we would kind of banter on that, perhaps debate that, and then perhaps come together in agreement towards the end of the episode. I don't want to script it too. I don't want to over-script it.
You were pushing back on my simple ways. Like I give 3 examples here.
Because we're saying the simplest way to build solos, and then you gave me a list of 3.
I know, and none of them are that simple.
They're not that simple, and there's not one.
There's not one, and none of them are that simple. But I think there is a way that we could talk about, telling your story that I think more than like having one simple way, Peter, the way to go about this is to recognize that we don't have to overthink things when we solo, when we improvise.
Here at the You'll Hear It podcast, often we do.
Although we do love to overthink things. You don't have to all the time.
Right.
And so I thought we could just talk, and this is also something that gets brought up a lot by some of our students and our members about, I have so much to think about. There's so many changes and scales and rhythms and all this stuff. How do I actually listen to this?
I'm trying to give you some soothing music in the background. Sorry.
So I think we could start with number 1, and this will be, I think, on brand for our podcast, which is number 1.
Play.
Nope. Not even close.
Number 1.
Yep.
Breathe.
Nope.
But that sometimes.
That's like number 3 and number 5. But what's number
1? Listen.
Listen. Okay. Always listen. So when we talk about building a solo, what we're really talking about is creating some tension and some release, creating some drama, and telling a story. And what storytelling is setting up a scenario, right? Setting up a situation, setting up your audience's expectations.
Yes.
Taking them on a bit of dissonance, like taking it somewhere where it feels a little unsettled or a little uncomfortable, and then delivering them to a place that feels again, back home or comfortable. This is like what music is. It's literally like, that's a story. That's a solo. That's a
classic 1-5-1 solo.
1-5-1 is an arc of dissonance, right?
Yeah.
Home, away,
back home.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the simplest version of thing. Maybe that's it. Maybe just 1-5-1.
Let me just paraphrase.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put another spin on what you just said.
Okay.
I'm gonna look at it through a different prism.
Put a different set.
And then I'm gonna put a pin in it.
Put some shades in. Put a pin in it. Put it on Pinterest.
You're gonna take a friend. You're gonna slap while they're down.
Oh, wait a minute. Why are you getting
and
violent?
then you're going to lift them up and give them a big kiss.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So that's
I scared you there.
A kiss.
I took you on a journey.
You're going to keep it simple, stupid. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
See,
look
now
at
we're
that.
now we're vibing here.
We've told our own story with the story of this podcast.
Yeah. But I think that actually is the simplest way, and the listening is the key to it. So the listening is not going to be the simple way to build the solo, but you can't do it simply and effectively without listening.
You have to listen at all times, and that means listening to the music that's going on around you, listening to what your fellow musicians are playing, and listening to the voice and the music in your own head. You know,
maybe a little VOG too. You got to
listen to the voice of God. Well, you don't want to listen to anything that's super critical. Like you don't want to listen to that self critic in there.
Yeah.
You want to listen to the music that's trying to get out.
Maybe the VOD.
Listen to the moment. And I think, you know, when you want to tell a story, right? When you want to build tension and release it, listening is crucial, because a lot of what you're going to use to build tension, like you can't tell the story of like a princess, you know, kicking a dragon's ass if you're not in like a medieval dragon princess scenario, right? So if you're not listening to the scenario that you're in, to the setting that you're in, where are you going to get the content of the dissonance, right? Where are you going to get the arc of the story so you can come out victorious in the end?
Yes.
So like if you're just coming in with a plan, like, okay, I'm here, we got 2 pianos, and we're going to play Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, and I'm going to tell my story. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and
he's coming in hot. He's coming in hot.
And I don't care what Peter's playing. I'm just going to
and you're not listening because you're talking over.
I don't care. I'm slaying my own dragon, even though we're in New York City. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. So being aware of what's going on around you, listening to what's going around you, is the only way that you know where your story is taking place. Was that too many mixed metaphors?
No, it's great. And I would say, you know, being aware and going next level is kind of hyper aware, which is very focused listening, you know, and we're always working towards that, will make it even easier for you to build that solo. And we'll make it even simpler, because the solo will sort of start, like what you need to play.
Let it come to you.
Exactly. Will start to unfold before you, and then you can kind of ride that wave.
Totally.
Because I think, you know, the idea of the starting small, getting big, going small, starting simple, getting more complex or more confused or whatever, and then like that's the simplest format, really. And so that's always going to be the simplest way. There's a million ways to do it within that general framework, and then you can, you know, and that's kind of at the macro level. But if you're not listening, and if you're not hyper aware and hyper listening, I would say it's going to be very hard for you to be able to discern when you should go and make those dramatic shifts in the overall, like we're not talking about one chord or one note. Yeah. We're talking about the overall arc of an entire solo, which could be anywhere from 20 seconds to 20 minutes.
So I wonder if you can if we can give an example of this, Peter. Like, so if we go back to Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, right? And I wonder if like you could try to arc a solo over the span of one chorus.
Okay.
Just using the only tool in your tool belt is listening.
Okay. So you put a couple handcuffs on me, but I'm willing to try.
No, but I mean, you can be freer than that. But really, like, you know, trying to listen your way through it or letting it come to you.
I'm going to take the handcuffs and turn them into a bird that flies away.
Let's try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, That was nice, but there was some drama that happened.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering now, with the listener having heard that, like what's going on there when you're not planning anything. You're not trying to plan anything. You're not trying to like come up with an idea of what you might do. So what's going on as you're building that?
Yeah. Okay. So I like for sure to have some initial simple idea. Oh, there's fuzz on my microphone.
Always.
I'm sorry. I'm like a distracted squirrel.
Yeah.
Something that is put together with like a basic element, and we're normally not necessarily thinking about consciously, but the reality is rhythmic, melodic, harmonic.
Some kind of nugget of information.
Some kind of nugget. And it's usually, for me, I'm kind of steering more towards the rhythmic and melodic, you know, and letting the harmonic stuff come a little bit later. But that's not the only way to do it. That's just kind of my typical thing on a tune like this.
That's the best thing. And that's how you can build themes and let the solo come to you, is finding a nugget. Like you started off with this, I think it was, yeah. This daco, I mean, whatever that is. And then built through it, ended with it, spun it around, kicked it, knocked it down,
exploited it fully,
completely. But you got the most out of it, right?
Yeah. And so I would say let's talk about, instead of the successes of that chorus, let's talk a little bit about, to me, the failures of it.
No failures here, man.
No. I feel like, this tune, it's my own fault, but like the bridge is a little bit lame. Am I allowed to say that? Like, to me, the A sections are just easier, more fun to play over. Like, to me, the bridge is a little bit throwaway-ish. It's just like...
Yeah, I mean, anything you do like that is going to
be... And then that's it. I mean, I'm exaggerating for a little bit of comedic effect. No, but it's difficult because, the way that the A sections unfold, going to the bridge, it's so, like, not only predictable, but doesn't really go anywhere to me.
Right.
That's not predictable. So... you just have to kind of account for that, and I find myself, you have to put a little bit more energy, because that's, if you're doing one chorus, that's going to be sort of your time to sort of build up or whatever.
So just to pause on that moment. So usually the bridge in an AABA standard like this one, the bridge is used to build tension.
Yeah.
Like when you're inside that bridge, because it's the only different section.
Yeah.
And I know Monk referenced this a lot, but you can hear it in everybody's playing. You use the bridge as a place to swirl and build tension, and then release it on that last A. Exactly.
It's sort of built in, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So when your bridge, as you kind of put, is like, not as interesting. Yeah. I will say, though, with this tune, there is a climax that happens in the melody.
Yeah.
And the changes themselves are, you're right, kind of throwaway. It's a 1-6.
Yeah.
And then, but there is this little climax that happens on the melody that you might think of.
Yeah.
No,
it's there. It's just so predictable that you kind of, as you're crafting. I mean, look, there's a lot of tunes like this.
Yeah.
Let
me can I try one?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can.
This can be one chorus too, right?
One chorus. I'm going to try to use the form.
Okay.
So this is another thing you can do. You can listen and find that nugget, which I'm definitely going to do. But I'm also going to use the form for what it gives you. Like, letting it come to you. So you have the repetition of A. Use that repetition in the A sections.
Yep.
Like, use it to your advantage.
Yep.
You can use it.
Ride that wave.
And then on the B section, because it's the different section, use that to its advantage. Let's try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and... So having my nugget there,
Yep.
There's something that kind of came. I actually heard you gave me a little G right there.
Yeah.
So like you gave me that information.
Yeah, and then you're listening. So
and I'm listening. So like right before we started that, Peter gave me a 5, right? And I heard that. I'm like, oh, I can take that and see what I can make of it. Trying to keep it simple. And the bridge, I really wanted to take it out rhythmically, I put some cluster things, some chromaticism to it, tried to build it. It didn't work exactly how I wanted it to. Like, it never is like, this perfect thing or whatever.
But it's a cool way to kind of break up the predictability of the bridge, I thought.
And
to mess around with the harmony like that.
You don't really have to think about it. You don't have to plan it so much. It kind of happens for you if you let it come to you.
Yeah, for sure.
What I mean?
For sure.
Cool, man. This is fun.
Yeah, and then just one thing I add to that: as you let it come to you, it's not going to come every time. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And that's why we practice. That's why we work on this. That's why we're thinking about it away from the instrument and kind of try to hear some things. But we're looking to up our percentage of times that it comes to you, and
that would be great.
The more you try, the more you're going to succeed. The more you're going to fail too, but that's going to be the part of the learning process for sure.
Well, this was super fun, man.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yes.
Well, thanks, everybody. Super fun. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, new YouTube channel called You'll Hear It.
And leave us a rating review still on the pod. That's still the best way for it to spread.
Just for
spread
our
the
own
word.
ego. Just to give us a little bit of peace of mind.
That too. Absolutely.
Yeah, that we're doing it right.
Until next time.
You'll hear it.